Okay, so it looks like it's going to be a little bit of trial and error with this pencil sharpener this time. So we'll keep playing and we'll see what happens. There's not really much more option than that, really. A lot of this here disappears into the white hairs, which will go on towards the end. In here, there's lots of strands of hairs, so we don't want to go into massive amounts of detail. Hello and welcome to my next video, where we are going to concentrate on adding some of the depth into the fur. I have now moved my camera onto a different mount so that it doesn't wobble quite so much while I'm working. And I'm going to show you the pencils that we'll be using during this session. So, not necessarily in which order, but there's a 182, a 101, a 183, 177 and a 199. These are all Faber-Castell Pitt pencils. We'll see how we get on with these, and if we need to change over later on, then we'll do so. So we're not going to concentrate on the white fur today. I'm going to concentrate mainly on the dark. So the areas around here, and see how we get on. So I think first of all, I'm going to add in some of the darks here. So I've sharpened my pencil. It could always do being sharper, can't they always? And we're just going to start adding in some of these nice dark lines where they're needed. But we'll start from where we were yesterday, I think. There's already quite a few dark lines in here, but I want to keep those going. Remember not to draw too many lines in the same place because it starts to look too uniform. And always keep curling your pencil around to keep that nice sharp edge. And don't be afraid where you've got some of these lighter areas, just put the odd flick. Again, it helps add a little bit of depth. And just over here, I want a little bit more dark. And hopefully later we'll be able to bring out some of those other colours. Sometimes it's better to push the opposite direction than you're going. You've got to be real careful in these spots. Might have to add some more black down here, I think. Just making sure some of these darker areas down here are actually showing up even darker. Highlighting the darks. These areas around the nose and the mouth aren't going to be quite so dramatic, although they might be down here because we're using a bit of artistic license again, as we mentioned earlier. want to add a bit more depth down here. Try, when you're doing these parts, just try to, as I said before, not make it too uniform. It's very easy to get the lines all going the same length, and it doesn't really produce the effect that we're trying to achieve. Because fur is most certainly not even. It's boiling hot in this room today. My wife has turned the heating on full blast, so I might have to go and turn it off in a minute. I've got to open this door. No, because she locked it. Oh. A little bit of air in. Okay. Where's my nice piece of paper? See my pencil's losing its sharpness. So I'm going to do that rubbing thing again. Just rub, just brings the point back a little bit. Ready for this area down here. We're just going to add in a few nice little streaks. We're about going too dark down here because we want some look of the fur in there. So again, carrying on with the eye down here. I'm surprised I didn't do this yesterday. I want to just give these intimations of hairs in some places. Going back to what I've said repeatedly about you can't draw every hair, simple as that. God knows I've tried. I haven't found a technique that makes it look realistic enough. Here, these hairs are really sort of coming off into the white there, but there'll be bits that we add in probably towards the very end of the drawing. this point, I'm not trying to add the darkest dark. This is a 177 brown. And we're just trying to draw in some additional layers. Always trying to draw in the general direction of the fur that you're drawing, obviously. A bit of brown in these areas here, but not too, you don't want to go too mad. Because the highlights and the later dark spots that are really going to make this stand out more. But either way, you still want to be always drawing in that direction. And just here we've got this slightly darker spot. And you can see, just adding these sort of darker patches in, there's no real hair there, there's no big dark strands. It's very tempting to draw the hairs. Doesn't work for me, and I imagine it doesn't work for most of the people that you'll see doing tutorials. Need to get this a bit sharper again, so time to get the old pencil sharpener on it. There's a few strands there that are a little more serious. Oh dear me, that's not good. I snapped my leg trying to be clever with this. Or have I? And now the darn thing doesn't want to go back together. Hey. Let's see if we're winning. I'm pretty sure, despite being a fairly new pencil sharpener, that this has decided to die a death on me. I think that the lead's not stuck in there. It appears to not be stuck in there, but it just appears not to be wanting to sharpen. Oh, the joys of technology. Bear with me, I'm not normally this completely klutzy, but I cannot get the darn pencil sharpener back together. The daft thing is it can only go in one way. There we are. You can't see what I'm doing here off camera, probably just as well. Time to invest in some time on Amazon, I think. Looking for another one. This wasn't the cheapest, but it wasn't the most expensive, and I've seen a lot of people talk about the Helix as if it's a good one. I remain a little unconvinced now. It's just breaking my lead. So, oh, great. Lead's definitely stuck inside there. I can see it, but I can't get out. I'm going to pause the video for a moment, and you probably noticed a slight glitch there. That's the downside of recording on your phone and not putting it onto the old airplane mode. So, got a phone call, cut my video off, yay, all the fun. Some of these spots in here are already fairly well defined. I'm just going to add a little bit further depth and some more brown in some of these areas. We do want to see some of the darker streaks when we add those light hairs in later. I'll just turn the heating off because I am literally pouring, which is not pleasant when you're trying to draw. So this I'll probably just want to reblend a little bit later on. As we do. Add some additional layers in here. Now, it's very tempting now to add in all the extra darks, but we really want to get a bit of colour, so I'm going to test a couple of these things out just to make sure I've got the right ones. I don't think that's the colour I was intending to use, no. Let's have a look. Nope. Where's it gone? That's rather annoying. It looks like the pencil I wanted to use has mysteriously vanished. I'm going to keep looking. That's certainly one of them. Where would that have gone? Let's see if I put it away. Just underneath my drawing. No, that one there. Oh, I know they are. I think they're hiding. Actually, no, they're not hiding, are they? Where's that one gone? It's always important to try and keep the colours you're working with nearby. And it doesn't help if they mysteriously vanish. Ah, there it is. This is the one I want, which is the 186. So, and this is this nice ready brown colour. It's very difficult to get the perfect match for what you're doing with these things. Because we can add some real nice little bits of colour and hair onto these now. And bring a few lighter highlights in. again, I'm not trying to go too mad on drawing individual hairs at this stage, because we just need we need the indication of hair rather than the actual hair. This is bringing that lovely, almost orangey look to this little puppy. Just starting to spread some of the longer hairs up there. And blend it a little bit down. Don't forget we're going to add some more dark highlights in later. And the different colours here, as long as they're the right sort of colours, really do help to add the depth. There you go. So I'm leaning over this drawing today. Okay, let's have a look up here. This is really sort of nice orangey tone just there. And again, just pull it down so it doesn't look too even. I'm adding in the colour highlights and the colour shades at the moment, so again, no hairs. Just want some of this lovely brownish, orangey brown tone showing through in these mid areas. It doesn't mean you can't start to take some strands up, because it does sort of carry on up there a little bit. Actually here there isn't so much of this colour. Starts to blend a lot more closely in this area. And this is where, up here now, we're going to start pulling this over the dark. And that can be quite challenging. This area here is very much this sort of orangey look with a few very bright highlights despite being in the shadow there. And then again, there's always a few bits around here as well. You can see just adding these little bits of tone in these places really makes it stand out. This hair looks really ugly on this side. Hopefully we'll pull it back later on. But the last part I'm going to do is that here. As you might imagine. Adding this in between these areas here. And again, as I said previously, this just helps add a bit more depth in. In some cases, it barely looks like I'm even making a mark. Oh dear me, far too warm. Right, down here again. Some of these edges we can't really finish off until later in the drawing. So, we shan't really try. All these parts here, I can really start to pull out some of these hairs now. Now, the key here is you can do this all the way down, you know, and certainly there'll be an element of that in the drawing, in your subject. You've got to be real careful not to create that edge that makes it too obvious. But just remember that no dog is got straight hair. Don't be afraid to just refine your lines a little bit. Later on we'll bring back some darks coming the opposite direction. Or at least that's the idea that we want to try and work on. And again, not so much individual hairs drawing again, just the indication of it. And all of these are going to go off into white hairs as well. And then next few shades. Okay. Perhaps one a little bit of orange in there. Just putting a little bit in there. It's not actually the colour we want, but there's going to be a hint of it there, so we might as well put it in. Checking for any other areas that we want it in. Maybe some more dark brown in there. Okay, well that's somewhere safe. I'm far too warm for this today. Right, there's some really light highlights, and I don't think brown is going to be the right colour, and I think white is probably too bright. So, if I can possibly get my tin open by opening it the right way, I'm going to look for a certain pink. I think there's a couple I want to try. We'll give this one a go first. This is a 189, which is a flesh colour. Needs a little bit of a sharpen. So my sharpener doesn't die on me this time, halfway through sharpening the pencil. The 132 might actually be a better one. So I'm just going to put this on here a little bit. Yeah, that's not really bright enough. So we'll try this one. This one's very blunt. I think I've used it on some highlights recently. There we go. This is a 132, quite a bright colour, we hope. I'm going to use this to poke out a few of the highlights down here before we add the white in. Use this one again a little bit down here. Need a little bit more of a mixes quite well when you've got that sort of lighter colour, just to help continue some blending there. Adding a little bit of the fine detail under the eye there. I don't spend too much time on this, I haven't done a lot of it yesterday. Not everyone will agree with this choice of colour, I don't suppose, but I think it works fairly well. Sometimes it helps just to stand back and have a quick look. Oh. Might just add a smidgen of this in here as well. There we go. Right. We need some little dark streaks in here, it would seem, to make this work properly. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to add these little tufts in. Yep. I seem to have lost my reference photo. My battery's obviously run out on my iPad again. That's okay. Fortunately, I have the photograph I printed as well. With these dark areas here, you do not want to press hard. You're literally adding a few streaks. And here we've got quite a bit of dark to put back in. So I'm not going to be afraid to streak this a little more. Adding these little almost snippets of hair just show almost gaps in between. You've got to again, always got to make sure they are going in the right direction though, otherwise it's going to ruin the effect. I think I might have to pause the camera momentarily because without the proper reference it is not brilliant for seeing what you're trying to do. This is, believe it or not, the mouth. That's how I'm trying to take the uniformity away from these edges, not make them too obvious. And here again, a couple of little dark spots we just want to put little nicks in. Every time we're drawing these crayon bits, we need to be refining these edges each time. Quite a bit of depth in there now. Right. One of the things you can do now is with one of these little gadgets, you can just smooth these in a little bit. Because again, you want to avoid that horrible grainy look. This could be really good for getting that gradient between the one thing it can do is pull the pastel, which can be good because you get those little streaks like that. It can also be bad depending on where you're applying them. you want to keep it fairly clean. So here, you can use it to drag the white over if you've got some white on your paper. You can also use it to drag the black in to create this sort of slightly, a bit like the blue we did last time, but it gives it some lines, some depth. As you can see here. This will be great when we go to blend the whites in later. You see how it's leaving streaks there, which look a bit like the hairs that we want to put in. That'll just help later on to blend something in. You can see the effect that has there, look. You're not really putting any hairs on, and yet here we are, putting hairs in that wouldn't otherwise be there. So it's very similar to the Tortillon, but rather than smooth blending, we're creating these little streaks. I don't try and be too picky about where these go, because if I create it uniform, I've got to make it go in the right direction, in theory. But if I try and make it too uniform or too controlled, it isn't going to look right. This is just another tool for building up layers. Use it if you like it. If you don't, it doesn't really make any difference to me, of course. I do like using it. There are some dangers with these tools, but I think the benefits outweigh them. Got this horrible little edge here now, which I don't really want. That's just where I've pulled that up there. Probably won't show up once I finish the hairs there. To add some directional bits in here. See how I'm re-going over with this colour again, second time. merely because it helps bring out, well again, it's all about the depth of the fur. Right, I think I need to pause for a couple of minutes to make myself a drink. So I'm going to do that and I shall be back. Okay, I'm back for a few minutes at least. So it occurs to me that if I want to continue this, I've got to get this side finished and then move over to this side. That's because I'm left-handed. If you're right-handed, you might want to start this side and go this side. We've got all the base layers in. There's a lot of fine details we need to add in around here. But we don't want to do that just this second. So my next task, I believe, is to get some of this foot here mapped in. So I'm going to just draw this going across here. Maybe have it fading a little bit. Wires everywhere, and they're hampering my efforts here. This is the Pit Pastel in white, as you may have gathered. The odd hair facing what appears to be the wrong direction. Always seems to work quite well.
Daddy?
Yeah, Romeo?
Huh?
I'm filming. Right here, I'm just trying to get rid of that hard edge. I'm drawing some of these white highlights here. Without being too heavy-handed. hairs over here are going to come out a lot further, really. There we go. Just gives us a bit of a base to work on over this side. There are a couple of lovely white hairs sticking out here. To refine this edge a little bit. Probably not with that one though. There we go. I want this to really be dark over here. I don't want to focus on this area of the puppy at all. But there are some little spots here that are going to show up in the light. This is our lovely brown again. So I'm going to sharpen up by blending the end on my crappy pastel paper. I really want to add some good detail there, and I'm going to struggle because I can't get it as sharp as I would like it to be. With my now apparently faulty sharpener. I haven't had this long, so it's not a case of it being old and useless, I don't think. Right, really, we just need a bit coming down here. My nice dark brown. The 177. Just to bring in a little bit of shade there. Probably want to use some black and a hint of this blue. There. as if it's a little bit of hair shining through. Sometimes you've got to press harder than you might normally like to in some of these spots to get the little hairs shining through. At this point, of course, we've got quite a lot of pastel on the paper in this area. And it gets harder and harder to really pull the effect in as well. This is a 179. I'm just going to try putting some small shadows in here. This is a way of hiding where this blue edge comes through. A few layers in here. We don't want these blocks of colour to be too bulky. Because it takes away the overall effect that we want. So just adding some little bits of depth into the shadow. Looks like my wonderful iPad has woken up so I can get my reference picture back, which is handy. There we go. I say it's handy, it'd be handy if I could get it to do what I want it to do. Just adding in, you can see where there's some dark lines from the earlier on. So I'm just adding the depth into those a little bit more. And just keep some continuity going there. But we don't want masses of depth and we don't want masses of loss either. There we go. Nice. That's a bit better. A couple more. Hints down there. Don't be afraid to cover these funny little bits up or add a little bit of little flecks. They'll help to give the impression of fur, and then shortly we'll add the fur going back over here. So again, we want to make sure the pencil's nice and sharp for this part. How sharp as we're going to get it with a decent pencil sharpener. We're going to need a slightly different colour to go on top of these, I think. Just to bring out those few highlights there. So I think the best option, if we don't use a grey, I'm going to try this very, very lightly. Let's try a fleck here. That might work quite well. I think that pink actually would be the best one that we were using earlier on, which is the 132. I've made it a little too uniform perhaps. Just here we're going to have some quite bright bits which we're going to draw on in a minute. Just very, very gentle touches on some of these edges. In fact, some of these you're barely going to see. Getting these odd little bits coming down. You can see here I'm not trying to do anything drastic. Just adding in little hints. Tiny little flecks, just to bring back that slightly furry appearance. I pressed a little bit heavy on that one. Oh, beep beep. What that means. Same here. So we've got a few little light specks here coming down. It's really important in these spots that you do turn your pencil quite a lot. Try and maintain a little bit of a sharp edge on it. I never worry at this point of getting it exactly like the reference, because that's quite a tough thing to do. Possibly a little dark in there. I'm not sure what colour I want in there now. And this pink is ideal for this spot here. Which is pulling these little hairs out here. Now this, ironically, I talked about not making your drawing too uniform, but this patch here is quite uniform. And there's a couple of really light flecks in here. I might want to just bring some shadow in there. There we are. Not sure if this is the one I wanted to use or not. That does seem to be working. This is as much trial and error for me as it is you watching me. And then we need to start drawing some of this detail around here. Okay, and to do that we've got to get this paw done, dusted and out of the way. So let's decide how we're going to do this. What's the best way? I think we need some nice darks down here. We know this is shaded area down here. Hopefully it'll soon become apparent what my intentions are here. What I don't know at this point is how well I can make this work. I'm almost going blind. This is really blurry on the reference image for the most part. So some of this is pure guesswork. I think we want to get this back out again. Little device we used on the first tutorial. I want to add some of this background colour more and more into the darks here, and I'm doing it literally by just pulling some colour onto the end of the tortillon and trying to blend it a little bit. Certainly down here it'll be quite dark. Probably to draw this in more. Deep aqua blue to run over this again. Blend this in again a bit later on. Especially over here where I want it to be hidden more. I might actually be able to finish a sentence today, if we're lucky. Adding quite a bit of blue into this at the moment. And a bit more black. Sounds like my lovely lady returning home. I'll best switch off for now.